Anthony, in this next lesson, I'd like
Yeah.
to just talk briefly, coming off of 1 Corinthians 15,
Yes.
but talking about Jesus returning as king for the
Yes.
1,000 years, and then after that, judge.
Yes.
Uh, if we could address him as what is he going to be doing this 1,000 years, and if
Yes.
you could also address, please, for our Jehovah's Witness friends,
Mm.
in regards to the verse in Revelation, I believe 5:10, where we will
Yes.
reign over the earth, that it's over the earth, that, over the entire earth. It doesn't mean up in the clouds.
No, no, it's absolutely not. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a system which is regrettable in this way, that they divide everybody up into two classes. They say that the anointed class, the real Christians, are doing this, and the average run-of-the-mill Christians are doing something else. That's a disaster. The one thing that you mustn't do is disunite the church. There's one hope, Paul said elsewhere, one destiny for all of you. Don't you know the saints, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 6:2, are going to manage the world? He doesn't say, well, half of you are in heaven. That's completely false. So you alerted us correctly to Revelation chapter 5, verse 10. And you don't want to use your King James Bible there, by the way. There are many corruptions there. Don't use the King James. Any modern translation would be better. But it speaks there of the saints of all the nations. They're combined as a kingdom of priests, and they, not we, they, referring to the saints, the true believers, are going to reign as kings, epitasis, on the earth. Now, if you want to translate that over the earth, I remind you of the Queen of England, who is celebrated this very day. She's reigning over England. It doesn't mean she's in the sky. So that's a complete quibble. It doesn't mean over the earth, meaning suspended in the sky.
Mhm.
That is about the worst nonsense you could make out of simple language. No, you can check that on the earth means on the earth. And if you're not convinced by that, then you would be convinced by Revelation 20, verse 9, which speaks of the camp of the saints. That's the holy people of God, all of them. It's on the earth, and there's going to be an attack from the devil there. So
Mhm.
it's perfectly clear that Jesus is coming back. If you're a Jehovah's Witness and you think that you're going to disappear to heaven, you're actually denying the second coming. Jesus is not paying a visit in order to go back to heaven. That's just wrong. That's to misunderstand the whole program. He's coming back to the earth. His feet will stand in that day, in Zechariah it says, his feet will stand in that day on the Mount of Olives. That's not in the sky. So you're losing out on the whole promise of inheriting the earth in Psalm 37, 5 times. It talks about inheriting the earth, being promoted to inherit the land. It's all about the land and the earth. So I'm glad you mentioned that point.
Well, and even Jesus, when he taught him to pray, he said, pray
Yes,
that your kingdom, your
yes,
rule, come on the earth as it is in heaven. That's what we're
absolutely.
looking forward to. Like you mentioned before, the rulers of this day, whether they're kings or prime ministers or kings or
Yes,
queens, they're not ruling righteously, and they're not thinking about the people they're ruling.
that's
And
right.
we're waiting for God's king to come and be inaugurated, as you said, in Jerusalem, to rule over all the countries,
Yes.
along, with us alongside of him, helping him out.
I think that's a very, very inspiring destiny. Isn't it marvelous that God can use human talent? And you can always say to yourself, if you're getting big headed, you can say, what talent have I got that God didn't give me? The answer is nothing. Your job, man and woman in the audience here, is to examine your own talents and say, what can I do with the God given talents that I have to promote the gospel of the kingdom? Matthew 24, verse 14. Then you begin to sound like Jesus, by the way. Otherwise, you don't sound like Jesus. And you want to sound like Jesus, not just behave like Jesus and be a good person. That's very important. But you better sound like him as well.
In regards to Jesus being the judge, because we know
Yes,
God judges through Jesus, again,
yes,
that agency. In
yes,
Acts 10:42, it talks about preaching to the people and testifying. He
yes.
was ordained by God to be the judge of the living and the dead.
Very good.
And in Matthew, or not Matthew, in And in John 5:22, the Father judges no one, but he has committed all judgment to the Son. I
Yes.
think this all talks about what we looked at in 1 Corinthians 15, how God has given Jesus the authority to take care of all this
Yes.
before everything is totally perfected. And
Yes.
2 Corinthians 5:10 talks about everybody appearing before the judgment seat of Messiah.
Yes.
And in Romans 2:16, that in the day when God will judge the secrets of men by Jesus the Messiah, according to my gospel. So God is judging through Jesus. He's the one who will judge us. And I believe in Hebrews too, I don't remember the verse,
Yeah.
it talks about Jesus doing that because he can relate to us, as you mentioned before.
That's very good. And there's one in Acts 17 that should be included in your good list there, that he's appointed a day in which he's going to judge the world. I'll repeat that, Acts 17, verse 30. Therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, God is now declaring to men and women, all and everywhere, that everybody should repent. Because in verse 31, God has fixed a day, he's put it in the calendar, in which he's going to administer or judge the world in righteousness. It's going to be a successful government through a man. Paul is he's foreseeing the danger that they're going to do something bad with Jesus, like turn him into God. That confuses the whole story. He's going to do it through a man whom he's appointed, having furnished proof of all this by raising him from the dead. That's the best verse of all in that judging. Isn't that wonderful?
It is.
Yes, good. And the word judge is a little bit unfortunate. It means to manage. The world is going to be under new management. So we're going to reign with Christ upon the earth. It means he judges and reigns. That's in Revelation 5, verse 10. Obviously, the Messiah is the one who takes charge of the world. That's judging. The Moffat translation has it right. Don't you know the saints are going to manage the world? The world is going to be under new management. And that's the whole point of the Messiah. That's what Messiah is. He's the anointed ruler, manager, shaliach, agent of God. And so every single second coming verse there is implies, of course, that he's going to reign. But I think Revelation 5:10 would do that as well as anyone, because it says that we're going to reign with him. Oh, don't you know the saints are going to manage the world? There's another one in Timothy. If we suffer with him, we're going to judge and reign with him. There you go. He's going to be reigning. He's the ultimate king. So all of those promises of our destiny automatically apply to Jesus. But that one in Timothy is very good. That we're going to, if we suffer with him, you're going to have to suffer. You're going to have to be tested before God lets you loose on this extraordinary destiny. But if we suffer with him now and we endure all that, then we're going to reign as kings with him. There you go. That's in Timothy.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.